What is up, everybody? Shauna D Man here, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are doing pretty good. Hope you had yourselves a great weekend, or well, I guess it really depends on when you're watching this. But I thought I would do a quick review of Apple TV's Masters of the Air. It finished up this past Friday with 9 episodes. Or I'm sorry, excuse me, 8? No, 9. Yeah, I think 9 episodes. And I just wanted to get on, do a quick little video about it. And I'm not going to go episode by episode of a review of it. I'm just going to give you my overall thoughts about the show and how it compares to Band of Brothers, The Pacific, two shows that I really do enjoy myself. But obviously, hit that like and subscribe button, comment below, tell me what you thought about the series. And so let's talk a little bit about it. So Masters of the Air, this has been a project that has kind of been rumored for a couple of years now, ever since we had got the Pacific. Um, we finally got it this year, and I really enjoyed this series. I mean, it from like I love World War II stuff, and so this was definitely something that um. 1 second. But this was definitely something that I really enjoyed. Because you know the air campaign during World War II doesn't necessarily get talked about enough compared to the kind of ground assaults of the European campaign or the island hopping campaigns of the Pacific Theater. This was something because in reality, from the Europe standpoint of of World War II, if it wasn't for what the American and the British Air Forces were doing during this time, D-Day might not have never happened, and who knows how long the war would have continued. But because of what they did in their missions and things like that, bombing German infrastructure, it definitely made a dent and definitely made a big hit, especially when it came to D-Day, because by that point they were able to gain full mastery of the skies. And so I thought this was a pretty good. I mean, there's been movies like Memphis Belle. Um, that's probably really the only one that I could think of off the top of my head. Is Memphis Belle. So this was definitely something really really good. I really enjoyed this series for what it was, and it's I like all three. I couldn't like to me, Band of Brothers, The Pacific, Masters of the Air. I can definitely say they're all 1A, 1B, 1C. There's not one I favor over the other. Obviously, each one with their storytelling and things like that are completely different. Masters of the Air and Band of Brothers are somewhat similar because you follow a group of servicemen, whereas in the Pacific you do follow people, but you're focused around at least three people. Robert Leckie, Eugene Sledge, John Basilone. Whereas you look at Masters of the Air and Band of Brothers, there's a whole supporting cast that is uh, being featured here. So from start to finish of this series, this was a series again. This is a series I was very much interested in checking out, and I like honestly out of the three, this one probably hits you more emotionally. That's not a word I want to use. More hits you in your emotions a lot more than the other two. Not saying the other two weren't. You didn't have emotional things attached to them, but just seeing what these guys went through day in and day out with these missions that ultimately, like at the early part of the war, was just devastating them. Like they could have a mission to Berlin. They could put up, let's say, 50 B-17s, and about 30, 35 of them would go down in some manner, shape, or form, and that these planes had 10 people each in it, and so that's a very large number. And you like a lot of the action sequences that you see when it comes to the bombing aspect of the war was just like it's rough. Like one of the things, like one of the episodes I remember is when you have the character uh Babyface. I want to say this is probably episode probably 3 or 4, but like the character of Babyface, he was a ball turret gunner, and obviously their plane was hit. It was going down. The everybody bails out, and then there's another uh airman by the name of Quinn. He could not get Babyface out, and just the emotions that was just hitting, and just seeing that he was trapped in this ball turret. He couldn't get out. I mean, the plane exploded, but it's just so many instances like that you get throughout this series. It's just the horrific nature of how a lot of these planes and a lot of these service members died. It was just truly terrifying, honestly. Like there were just moments watching this series where I was just clearly lost for words about what I was watching, because it was just it was just really really wild. And then from the character standpoint, there's a whole plethora of characters that at first it's very hard to keep up with, because there's just so many characters coming in and out. But you know, you got Bucky and Bucky, Rosenthal, Crosby, and so you have guys in this series who, in real life, accomplished and did great things for sure. And it was just, we got a glimpse into their stories. Now, Rosenthal is a very much prominent character. He flew well over, I think, 50 missions. Now, he did complete his 25, but by this point of him completing his 25, it was getting close to D-Day, and the Allies could not afford experienced pilots to go home and have them replaced with, rookies. And so they eventually, like midway through the war, they extended the hours. And so he's a very prominent person who flew a lot of missions. Um, Crosby, another interesting character that who was Masters of the Air, is narrating the basically the episodes, and so we get to learn more about him. But man, just a lot of the characters in this show were very good, and I just enjoyed watching. And this show did a lot of things I was not expecting, but typically you don't see a whole lot. Like one of the instances is uh is Major Egan when he is shot down. Obviously, like, so there's two things of it. There's one where, because he gets shot down, and he's getting on a train going to a POW camp, and we see another train because like slowly appear through the mist that has a German swastika on it, and you can tell that this is more than likely a train carrying Jewish civilians on their way to the death camps and things like that. And so like stuff like that was just very strong to see. And then like there's a part where they're a group of them are being transported through a bombed city, and the civilians of this city basically take the revenge and kill a lot of these American airmen. And it was wild. And you don't see that kind of stuff when in movies or shows. You don't get a lot of these other perspectives of what's going on. Like it was really really impressive to see the aspects of the German civilians during this time and what they were going through. The same way what the British were going through during the Blitz, like 1941 and I believe 19. Well, I think. 1940 and early 1941 when the Luftwaffe was bombing and targeting British cities and airfields and things like that. And it's really rough too because you in both instances in the show you get a German perspective and a British perspective of being bombed by the opposing air forces, and then the next day women are crying and people are trying to find their loved ones, and the show does such a good job of just hitting you in in your emotions, and like it's really really good. And like I like there's not really one episode I did not like. Every episode just had an impressive uh storytelling to it. And I know I'm not going detail by detail. I just again this is just me giving like an overall general thought of the show. And you know we get the Tuskegee Airmen, which was something I was kind of looking forward to. You know, they don't necessarily get a whole lot of representation, but they were very prominent with their roles. Now, obviously, the movie Red Tails probably goes over a little bit much with it, but overall, it's a pretty fun film to watch. And then there's a movie called I believe there's a movie called The Tuskegee Airmen. That's a really solid movie that is on my bucket list to try to find and check out. But we get to see uh, their perspective of things, um, and then we get to see some Russians as well in episode 9. Rosenthal over a bombing of Berlin. His plane gets shot down. He's trying to steer his plane to the Oder River because there's advancing Russian forces, and so Rosenthal's trying to maneuver his B-17 to where when everybody bails out, they'll be able to be captured by the Russians and not the Germans. And so that's just another instance. Um, it was also interesting too, like just me watching the show week in and week out, and then like because they will put up dates of you know this raid happened May 8th, 1943 or whatever. You know they would put up dates, and like a lot of times what I was doing was uh whenever they would put up a date, I would think to myself what was going on during this time. And so one of them was like this was probably around March 7th, March 8th, March 9th, where I think this is probably episode 6. Yeah, I want to say this was episode 6. Uh, just before D-Day happens, I was watching this series and I was thinking to myself, I was like, I think it's getting pretty close to where they start to implement this destroying the Luftwaffe mission. So basically, Dwight Eisenhower, the Allies, they all know they cannot invade Europe while the Luftwaffe is still active. So they essentially, the men don't like. Obviously, I don't. The men don't know this. They may have, learned about it years later, probably. But but Rosenthal learns this. He's just like these missions are essentially bait to bring the Luftwaffe up so our fighters can engage and take them out and limit their numbers. Because by this point, March of 1943, no, I think it was like 44. I'm pretty sure it was like 1944. Um, we get the introduction of the P-51. The P-51 was such a game changer because before the fighter escort for the B-17s for the American um, bombing raids over France, Europe, uh, Germany, where their fighter escorts could not go with them. The P-47 Thunderbolts, they didn't have the range. They could have probably get them at least to the coast, but that's probably the maximum range. But now we get the P-51, who is was just a top tier fighter of World War II. Um, they could travel from England all the way to Germany and all the way back, giving outstanding fighter protection the whole trip there. And obviously they still probably lost some bombers here and there, but they weren't losing them in the manner that they were. And so it was so it's really cool seeing things like that get introduced into this show as well. There was the action scenes, like I mentioned, were very entertaining to watch, and just like a lot of it's like, hey, was that exaggerated? But if you like, no, because like it's amazing how well like an entire cockpit of a B-17 could be blown off and manage to land. Stuff like that happen, and it's just amazing to see stuff like that happen in this show, knowing there is some truth behind these kind of actions that took place over the skies of Europe in World War II. One of the coolest things that I enjoyed watching was there was basically the D-Day mission where Crosby, it was we were getting close to D-Day, and so the Allied High Command was giving missions out. Crosby was having a plan, bombing raids. Whenever he would finish five mission, command will give him 10 more missions. It was just consistent mission planning for D-Day. And so one of the things I really enjoyed was uh, Crosby and Rosenthal, because that day alone for D-Day, Rosenthal flew three missions. Like they were consistently flying missions on D-Day, and a little bit leading up too, but primarily on D-Day, they would get brief, load up, take off, hit their targets, come back, debrief, get briefed again, load up, take like they were consistently doing that. And one of the things I liked was Rosenthal saying that he didn't see much his first two flights, but that third flight when the sun was just peeking through the clouds, and we get that scene of the massive D-Day armada that is just on the coast of France unloading men and material. Such a breathtaking scene, and such an outstanding aspect to see nonetheless. And so like I'm this show was really good. I very much enjoyed the show. uh, but man, it and we also get some like other cool aspects too. We get the French Resistance, um, and then let's see, we got to see. We didn't necessarily get to see how they operated. I think that would have been pretty interesting to see because at a certain point earlier in the season, Quinn was shot down, and I believe there was another pilot or another airman by the name of Bailey, and a very tense moment is like, okay, because what the French Resistance tells them is when Bailey is not captured but detained by the French Resistance, one of the captors says, "Okay, you have two options. You can either turn yourself in to the Germans and be treated fairly under the Geneva Convention, or if you take the risk to escape and get back to England, they can capture you and shoot you as a spy." Now, and well, obviously, he chooses that route to get back to England, and we kind of follow this whole little episode of him, you know, making his way to England, and it was wild. It was very nervy because like he freaked out in the episode, and he almost blew the cover, and like it's wild because just the understatement of the French Resistance was just so vital for down Allied pilots. And not only that, but it also provided intelligence to the Allied High Command, German troop movements. Just even on D-Day itself, they were sabotaging and getting things ready to assist with the Allies when it was time to come to land on the beaches. Trying to think if there's any other things. Most of the characters in the show, you know, obviously portrayed real life people who went and did some great things, and yeah, it was a really good show. I really very much enjoyed it. Um, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think one of the like not I guess heartbreaking thing, but one of the sad parts of the series was just like again, it's just like I remember watching one of the early episodes, and we follow one of the American female service members who was in England along with the uh, the airman, and eventually the American soldiers, British soldiers that were building up for D-Day. But like earlier in the season, she had a thing for a rookie pilot, and and she's talking. They get ready to head off for a mission. This is the same episode where we kind of learned that Bucky Cleven was shot down, but like this particular, there was a female named Helen. Now, probably in real life, her name was different, but Helen in this episode, I can't remember. He was a lieutenant. I can't remember his name, but like he was. She said, "I'll see you later when you get back." Come to find out, his plane was shot down, and so it just instances like that was just interesting. And like again, you get a British perspective of it because a scene in early in the episode. This is probably the same episode, I think, where or probably an episode before where uh Major Egan is was just a female British, and in the background you see the Luftwaffe is bombing uh, a British city. I don't think it was London, but they were bombing a British city. It might have been London, but and she's just talking, and she just talks about how the Germans have what's coming. They started this fight, and then so you got to just see all these different perspectives and how these different nationalities just come around during the show. I mean, you get a British perspective, you get the French perspective, you get a little bit of the Russian perspective, even the German perspective. You make like all these different viewpoints that we got to experience during this series was just very impressive, and it was such a well done series as well. But yeah, but overall, man, I very much enjoyed this series. Who knows what they're gonna do next? I mean, we've got the European camp. I mean, you got two Europeans, one Pacific. I mean, who knows what the next kind of series is gonna be like? But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all I got for y'all. Like I said, I just wanted to come on, do a quick review of the series, and give my thoughts. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts. So be sure to drop them in the comment section and tell me what you think of the series. If you had to rank them, Band of Brothers, The Pacific, Masters of the Air, how would you rank them? But other than that, guys, you have a good weekend, good week, depending on whenever you're watching this, and I will see you guys in the next video. See ya.